How you doing, Johnny?
We're rocking and rolling and getting lots done.
I like your top. It's very plaid, black and white, grayscale.
I'm in the valley, so I wear my plaid.
I could use that in Photoshop as a color balance tool.
You could actually. A blurry one.
So I got a mishmash of stuff I want to talk to you about, and I may get interrupted by Andy, our maintenance guy, or another guy that we hired to do a set of shelves for our bathroom. This Murphy's Law may show up. So, yeah. So I want to talk about some technical stuff later on, but talk about some success strategies. And but the first, I want to ask you a question, John. Don't reply with a question. Answer with the first impulse that, like,
do my
yes,
best.
yes, no, or maybe. So it turns out the Canadian Army is creating another regiment of older soldiers, an auxiliary. Are you 50 yet?
I will be this August.
Okay, well, let's assume you're 50. So anyways, they want people to sign up in case.
Mm-hmm.
You know why?
No.
Well, you've been watching the news.
Oh, for okay, yeah, for overseas, yeah.
And all that shit.
Yeah.
Right. So
what's
my question to you is, do you take up arms?
No.
Do you sign up?
No. I already shoot people already as it is, but just not with a gun.
Okay, let's assume you're retired.
Yeah.
You got all time in hands. Would you do it?
No.
Okay.
I'm not that type. I mean, it's funny. I live in a military town, but
yeah,
and it's basically considered one of the biggest military bases in Canada, and yet
I think it is, isn't it?
My wife's always told me you should get into there and get it as a photo tech or something like that, because they still make you go through basic training. You gotta still be able to take care of yourself, but I don't know. I just it's just not my life. And
pacifist through and through.
What's that?
You're a pacifist through and through.
I just can't see myself shooting a gun. Maybe at targets, that's about it.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my answer, and I'm going to tell you why I brought that up.
Okay.
Okay, there's a reason. You're going to connect the dots in a second.
Okay. Well,
so I would be very compelled to sign up. So, and but it's got to be a righteous cause. I mean, if it's the wrong, I too don't believe in wars. However, if it's for the right reason, I would probably do it. So that'd be exciting.
I don't agree with wars, and I mean, of course, nobody wants a war. I mean, we want all peace throughout Earth and that, but there's unfortunately wars that happen. I just physically can't see myself taking a gun and shooting another person. I couldn't.
All right. What if they said, we need you to do technical work? You go through basic training, but you're never going to shoot a gun. You're going to be doing some of the technical stuff because we need you for your skill set. Would you? I
still can't see me doing it. Like money wise, it would be great, but
yeah,
I don't know. Just
okay.
I see too many families, what they go through when people are gone away overseas for these type of things, and the worry that the family goes through. And with my two daughters and my wife, and I don't know. It's not the type of lifestyle for me.
So I'm compelled to say yes, because I'm excited by adventure, and I'm excited by the idea of taking action to defend something that I feel is right, assuming it's right. So, and the reason it's not true, by the way, in case you haven't gathered that's not really true. But, I could probably fool a few people into believing it and say, yeah, I heard on the news today, the government's coming up, they want as many people. It's an enlistment thing. We're going to start with volunteers like they did in World War II. And the Canadians were initially volunteers. I think, well, they might have been volunteers throughout. Anyways, but the idea is that it's a thought experiment. That's a thought experiment. Would you go or would you not go? And what happened to your camera's gone?
I know. I see. I'll fix it.
Yeah, I like what you got there, though. We got me and my first camera I bought when I was 17 years old, Canon FTB. I bought it at Sears, $280. So, but anyways, the idea is it's a thought experiment. If you want to have a discussion, you ask the question. And one of the most common questions is, what would you do if you won $1 billion? We ask similar questions when we're interviewing people. So, but a thought experiment, and I brought this up in the email today that I sent out, the mass email I sent to everybody. And the idea was, was that, hold on, I'm going to find it. So how to stop procrastinating and take control of your life today. And one of the strategies, two of the strategies that are really relevant to this question is recipe cards and ask smart questions. So I think that's a fun question. I don't know if it's a smart question, but it would be an interesting, fun question to ask, and something that would definitely. Well, it's in the area of let's stir up some interesting conversations, and probably going to get some different viewpoints, and you never know, some arguments.
Definitely.
I mean, I don't like arguments. I hate them. It's all pure emotion. So when I see an argument coming on board, I stop, because that's a creativity killer. However, so in the email, I suggested that as a strategy. Now, one of the first things I did when we came to Costa Rica back in December, we do a run to the grocery store, and there's a stationery section, and I bought 3 packs of index cards, and I just filled them up. I have tons of them. See?
Just random thoughts, or?
Well, let me show you. This one's got a V in the corner. See right there?
Yeah.
That means it's a video for either Wizard of Light or for my Costa Rica channel. So I get an idea, I write it down.
Yeah.
I mean, this is so important. Most people don't write it down. They just like, oh, I'll remember that. No, you won't. You will not. But that's not what's important. What's important is that you write it down, so you lock it, and then you can revisit it, and then you lock it in your mind, your consciousness. Other ideas will be spurred forward. If you don't write it down, you lose that opportunity. And this applies to running a photography business. This is something I really, really, really believe in. And I do this all the time. So it's just a strategy, I believe. So we got, hold on. I got to do a speech tomorrow night for like 45 minutes. So I started my notes. Yep. I just think about, oh, I got these ideas. Let's write them down. So I got a whole series of cards with V in the corner. It reminds me, that's a video idea. Now here's one here in the corner. It says Photo Buzz. Okay. And I got Robin Spencer, Tyson Zahner, Paul Maynard. Bill Foster not replied to my email when I asked him if he would come on board. So I don't know if that's him saying no. Thomas Dodd, I don't know if you've seen one of his, but I've had him on.
Or not.
John Rumble, the sports photographer. I know maybe John's listening. I know John's probably a little shy, but I know he's been doing. Get him
on. I'll keep bugging him too, because
he's been doing some killer stuff.
He has been doing some good stuff, and he just uses the AD200s for all his sports stuff too.
Joe Busink, I emailed because who suggested Joe was Vanessa, right?
No, it was myself. I told her about seeing him on a show once,
right?
And she knew who he was because she had worked with him or something like that.
And she's going to be doing something with him soon. So I said, well, let's get him.
That's what it is. Yeah, because I've seen some of them. She did it with Peter too, where she's doing a pro versus amateur camera shoot-off type of thing. And
Nancy Tilburg sent me a couple, about 5-6 weeks ago. She sent me, we're always talking. We have conversations, and we chit-chat all the time. And she mentioned some promotion she was doing, which I went to her website, or maybe she sent me the link to it. There was a page. So what I did, and this is a tie-in to this strategy, and I went to the page. I said, this is a really good topic. We had Nancy on, remember, last spring?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, last spring, I think.
So I have this thing. First, when I open up my computer, earlier part of the day, I open up my web browser, and I call it morning coffee. It's a folder. And I put all the web pages I want to go to first thing in the day, like Facebook, email, the studio, the NoBS, blah blah blah. So one of those bookmarks is this page that Nancy sent me as a reminder, even though I wrote her name down here, as a reminder that that's what I want to talk about with Nancy. If I don't do that, I'm going to forget. Yep. But not only that, as I mentioned a while ago, if I remind myself with cards or bookmarks and web browser pages or whatever else, if I don't do that, I'm going to forget. So I got to remember, but it'll plant itself into my brain, and it'll inspire other ideas.
Yes, I'm getting better at that. I've actually started getting little binder or little booklets you get from the stationery store, the little
Mhm.
lined paper books, and you just when something comes, I write down. Or when we're doing photo buzzes here, and we have a person we're interviewing, I'll write notes down as we're doing it. Yeah, like that. But
I have one of these for Costa Rica photography strategies. That's what this
yeah,
is for.
I
My
prefer that
wife,
over the index cards because I'll never forget. I'll never
what
remember to bring index cards with me.
my thing is have both.
Yep.
And have the index cards just near your main computer, wherever that
Okay.
is. You don't
Yep.
need to
Okay.
bring them anywhere else.
Yep.
Or
That's
have them
true.
in the kitchen cupboard. I have them at home. I'm like, oh, go grab one. I know where it is. If I got to go looking for
Yeah.
the damn thing, it's a pain in the ass. So.
No, exactly. But I'm getting better at because I was never a type of guy that took a lot of notes and things like that. But I learned that from a lot of people that are very successful, whether it be photography, business, whatever. And they're always, you have to have a notepad with you at all times or something to write on because you never know when you need it.
Yeah. So now you are a note taker. You guys heard it here today, live and in person on March 10th, 2022 Photo Buzz. John Butler is now a note taker. We're going to bring this up again in a few months and say, how's the note taking going, John? I mean, it's so simple. I mean, really, I think you should give it a go and,
I agree.
Apply it to any photographic marketing strategies and or ideas you've picked up. Maybe Maria mentioned something and you're like, oh, I'd like to maybe consider that. And then you write it down. That's one idea you write down and you start the thought experiment and you ask the question. If the Canadian Army were enlisting volunteers 50 plus, would you sign up? That's just a hypothetical question I'm asking just to illustrate my point. And it just popped into my brain 10 minutes before we went live. But you ask any question you want, and I guarantee you the answers are going to come. And that was the second point. First, I had a list of them. I'm not going to go through them all. The second one was ask smart questions. So never quit on a situation and give it. Instead, ask compelling questions. For instance, you might be trying to come up with a marketing solution, but maybe you're hitting a dead end. Some sort of external forces might be creating roadblocks. Don't quit. Ask, what can I do to create a solution? And what I often will do is I'll say, okay, I'll take on a role model or somebody I know as a role model and say, I'll ask, what would so-and-so do in this situation? So if you ask questions, it's going to open up new creative avenues, potentialities, and you connect the dots later, but in the thick of it, it's nothing but confusion and sometimes confusion and what seems like an impossible situation. But man, I'm telling you, I've worked through some pretty cool situations and got through them by asking that question. So I want to show you something, and I'm going to share the screen if I can.
You go right ahead. Brian Coleman says, hi, Rob and John.
Yo, Brian. Brian, are you willing to come on Photo Buzz one day?
I think he should. He's got a lot. I think he just moved studios, I think, in the last 6 months or so to a new studio. He's
so a couple
in the Timmins area.
Yeah, know him quite well. So you remember we had Will Crockett on?
Yep.
Can you see the screen?
I can. I think I know what you're showing because I think I got one too.
Good. I was going to ask you that. Did you get one of these cards as well?
I did. It wasn't that exact picture. He sent me actually a different picture. I'll bring it for next time.
It's a beautiful image. I remember seeing that on his website. And so my daughter is at home back in Sudbury, and she checks our mail for us. And when we get mail, she'll take a picture of it and text it to me, bills and whatever. And she sent me this last night. So I'm like, what? Will Crockett sent me a card. I wonder if, and I thought, I wonder if John got one or if I'm his favorite. I'm thinking I'm thinking I am his favorite regardless.
Probably.
But hey, Rob, thanks so much for the outstanding interview. I enjoyed it very much. One of the best ever. Your buddy, Will.
Yeah.
And this
it was a nice one because I wasn't expecting it. And then I got home one day and I see a card. I'm like, who's this from? And I open it up, or I look at the masthead and I see this name there. I'm like, oh, that was nice of him. So I sent him a message back thanking him for the card, letting him know I got it. And then I showed him a picture. I don't know if you saw it. I put it in there from, we were talking during his interview about the disc I bought of his way back when.
Right.
And I
I remember that.
found it at home. So I threw a picture of it in there for him. He's like, I think I have one of those too somewhere.
Yeah. Will's live stream with us was amazing. I absolutely enjoyed every minute. You know, I don't know that we've had anybody on that I was disappointed with, really. They've all been so good.
Exactly.
And they're all
believe me, I
interesting.
know what that's like. I do a interview show here locally for local businesses here, and we've had 1 or 2 guests on. It's only a half an hour show, and there's times where my co-host and I are looking at each other like thinking, "Oh, how are we gonna? What?" We've almost asked them everything. Like they're just one-word answers, and we got to fill 30 minutes. We've never had that, you and I.
No, it's been pretty good. I remember I've had one like 14 years ago where she was so paralyzed with fear, she couldn't even answer a question beyond saying, yep. Yep. I'm like, oh, Jesus. And it was a struggle. But my bad, you know, and if I know better next time to sort of connect the dots and say, okay, she's probably, so I should probably prep her some more and ask her a few questions and prior to. So I don't know if you saw the email I sent out yesterday, the atomic bomb of all emotions.
No, I did not. And I usually get all your emails.
Well, you should be on the list. You should check, see. I'd like to know if you're not on the list, you should be.
I am, because I always get them in the past. So I'll look and see.
Do you know which emotion is more destructive than all others? The atomic bomb of all emotions. It's bitterness and resentment. So I sent this out. I was talking about a photography. You know, I don't, to me, I'm looking at my, oh, should I send this? Should I send this? It sounds a little negative because I'm talking about dark shit and stuff, but it's stuff I really believe in. And so I was kind of reluctant. I almost didn't send it, but I sent it, and I got replies from both Maria, one of our favorites, and Marilyn Sholin, who I've had on many, many times. And Marilyn says, hey, great email. And that was similar to what Maria said. It happens. I remember dropping out of active photo events to regroup for 3 years. My art, I remember when she went through that phase. She used to be a full-time photographer in Florida. Now she just does art. She's an artiste. She says, my art is selling like crazy. My website has been cranking and my gallery sales are a dream. New energy revived my creativity. If you think anyone is interested in my story of life changes and journey to success, I'm up for a chat. I did a slideshow for a women's group that they found enlightening as to life and career changes, but still within the arts. I am not retired. I crossed over to a new chapter. That's amazing. So I'm going to get her on the Photo Buzz.
Yeah, why not?
I've done 3 or 4 webinars with her, including, you can see here, the finishing touch with Marilyn Sholin. That's back in 2015. Creating stunning high-end art and profit-turning paintings. So I got a 1, 2, 3, 4-part series with her, and some downloads and some other stuff. She did a video on Painter 16. I don't know if Painter 16 is considered archaic now or not, but yeah. So that's someone we're going to get on soon, and it was amazing that I got those emails. I was glad to see that. Now I know, you know, if my emails and my communication and content is genuine, and it's something I really believe in, there's probably others out there who believe in the same stuff.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
Neil,
and all this.
Your earlier question about would you fight again in the military?
Yeah,
it was a big long one.
What's that?
He has a big long answer in there.
Who?
Neil, did you? That's it right there.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was on the other page.
As a war veteran, a Vietnam War veteran, I would not sign up to go overseas again to fight against a foreign country, but I would fight at home to defend home and family. I know that is a qualified answer to your question, but as someone who has already been there, done that, I have hopefully learned about myself enough to know what is really important to me and what I'm willing to do if the need to act arises. War is not fun and glamorous if you have been there, but some things are worth.
That's amazing. Thanks, Neil. Interesting. That's very insightful and a position that is well versed, understood, and thought out based on your experience, not just hypotheticals. So, but yeah, so, and I think we can apply this to our photography businesses, as odd as that sounds. And the reason why I bring this up and talked about, having index cards and creating thought experiments and, doing what Marilyn did. She took 3 years off and she regrouped and then boom, went back at it. And that's life as a small business entrepreneur. It's a constant up and down, and it's a constant zigging and zagging with the idea that you're reaching for a particular goal and you're trying to find the path of least resistance, but which is often the path least traveled. And to get there, and it's never a straight line ever. And a lot of people quit. They quit before it's done. Remember the first time we had Crystal Adele on the ferry? Yes. She's doing ferries last November. Remember what she said right away? She said she started creating the ferry wings and she almost gave up.
Yep.
And she pushed and she pushed and she pushed and she got it. And then we had her on last week and she said, "Oh yeah, I can do wings now, blindfolded almost."
Exactly.
It's like boom, boom, boom. So
even after the first interview we did with her, I was keeping track of her because she added me as a friend on Facebook, and she was actually starting right away making her own mushroom too, because she was trying to figure out how to get a mushroom like yours. And then she says, "Oh, I'll just make my own," and she went and made her own.
Well, I have pictures. I should contact her and say I got the
catalog for the company you get them from.
Which company is it? Is
it's
it
that one in Southern Ontario there? I think it's around Milton, Ontario, or whatever, where you get the
Brantford
and the
or Brampton. It's from Brampton.
Well, it's not Brampton. It's actually Milton or something. I looked at the address on the back of it. It's not in
Brampton. Moved. Yeah.
So
I believe Denny's offers them too, but there's a few other places. But one of my members from I think it was, what's her name, from Australia. She did her own, and she showed step by step.
Okay.
And it's very simple.
Not Alicia, is it?
Yeah, Alicia. Yeah,
Alicia Birch.
I believe it was her. And you use one of those wooden spools that they wrap cables around.
I've seen people do that. Yeah, with like wire and stuff. And
just use wire, and you fill it with foam, and then you wrap it with cheesecloth dipped in paint and glue, and
as long as it's strong enough to hold the person, they don't fall through it.
Well, those spools are really, really strong. But anyways, thanks to Will Crockett for sending that card. That's amazing. And it was almost, my thought was, man, we should have been the one sending him a card.
That's true.
Yeah. And that's something I've always preached and pushed over the decades of teaching others about marketing. I like, there's an old school, Shoot Smarter, Ultra Portable Power Portraits volume.
That was what I bought from him about probably 10 years ago.
Nice. You were hungry, still hungry, always learning. So
always.
This is cool. What else was I going to talk about? I don't know. I wrote down Dion Photography. When I was 20 years old, I got a job in the black and white commercial industrial mining photography darkroom. It was a mom and pop studio, and their son was, at that time, he was 24. I was 21. I remember I was thinking, man, he's so much older than I am. He was 24, very responsible. He always wore a suit, and he spoke very well, and he came across as like a 40-year-old. And he was the guy that was at that time doing the mining photography mostly, not always, but mostly. And Rene, his dad, was the original founder of, and he was known as one of the top mining photographers in North America. And they had a full-scale black and white darkroom, all stainless steel, and Hasselblad enlargers. Did you know Hasselblad made enlargers?
No,
I did not know that.
I didn't use enlargers that much.
So anyways, I worked for them for almost 2 years, and I always said it was one of the best jobs I ever had. And the reason I got the job was because prior to them hiring me, I sent out resumes everywhere. I planted seeds everywhere, and I had an amazing resume, and even though I was completely clueless as to what I was all about. And I just wanted to come across as somebody who was very, very hungry, who had their shit together. And they bought it and hired me, and it was the best job I ever had. So I look back at all that and I connect the dots now. I connect the dots to say, okay, this happened and that happened, but none of it happened haphazardly. It happened because I planted the seeds. So I say that in line with what Will did. He's planting seeds. I don't know if this is a networking strategy. I don't know if he's using that for that strategy, or if he's got some plans down the road and he wants to hit us up, which would be kind of cool. Probably not. However, in photography, we don't send out as many mailers as we used to, but they're very powerful. But I have a stack of thank you, or just their generic cards in my studio, and I have stamps and envelopes. I'm ready to mail one at a moment's notice. That's pretty important. I don't want to have to go looking for it. And it's a picture I took of a local scene, and on the back it's got very, very low. I don't want it to be a sales pitch.
Yeah.
So on the back it's just got Westmount Photography and the website, and very low key. So I'm planting seeds. So when something happens, I'll send them a congratulations. So let's say so-and-so, maybe I did their family portraits before, or I know them from Rotary or whatever, and they got a big promotion, I'll send them a congratulations. And
okay, I got a question for that, bringing that up, because I know you used to be a big advocate of send-out cards. Do you prefer something like send-out cards, or do you prefer handwritten ones that you do yourself? Because I know locally here, I used to do send-out cards all the time. I still do now and then, but I had another person who's a mortgage advisor, and she says she doesn't like company like that because there's no personal touch to it. She likes to physically write it out, put it in an envelope, and send it herself. What do you prefer?
Well, given the choice, I'd always prefer handwritten.
Yeah.
But if you're doing higher volumes and you want to
use send-out card?
I have an account, but I haven't used it in years. Yeah. I've gone back to handwritten.
Okay.
But I think a couple of years ago, I did a mass mailer I compiled a list of all my clients. I think I had about 600-700 on there. It was like the VIP, I called it.
Yeah.
And it's easy and it's a good value. So I agree with her. However, I don't know. Do I want to sit there and write out 634 cards? Yeah. Maybe I do. I used to do that in the old days when Tina and I were sending out newsletters. We'd watch a movie at night, rent a movie, go to Blockbuster, rent a movie, and I would sit there. And I always mailed out 1,000 at a time. That's roughly what our mailing list was when we send out newsletters. But the idea is that it's unusual, and it's going to stand out because who the hell sends anything in the mail anymore? Nobody sends stuff in the mail. You don't even get checks in the mail anymore. Really, people just pay. Everything's online. It's all virtual. So definitely, when you send out a card, what Will just did is an amazing strategy, and we can apply it to our studios. So something to remember, and don't make it salesy, or don't make it. Don't be a weasel. When you get something, you go, they're trying to sell me on something. Damn it all.
Yeah.
Damn it all. So it doesn't work.
So you just use a generic picture that you shot that you can use for a bunch of cards. It's not necessarily one from that person's shoot that you did.
I used to do that with babies, but I don't promote babies anymore.
Yeah.
I don't like doing babies anymore. By the way, on the topic of babies, ANIPI, Associated Newborn Photographers International, Accredited Newborn Photographers International, I did a program for them last year on the baby's first year. It's a marketing program. They paid me well for it, and I really worked hard at creating the content. So I'm kind of in their inner circle, and they asked me last month if I would be a judge. Every month they have an accreditation judging. And Kara is her name. She's from Southern Ontario. And the lady who started this organization, her name is Stephanie Robin. I had her at, I don't know if you remember, you might have been there at one of the Infernos in Toronto. She was a speaker. She did a 3-hour presentation on newborn photography, largely with the theme being newborn safety.
Okay.
So anyways, they asked me if I would be a judge for one of their accreditations, and they pay me a couple $100. I mean, that's for two judging events. I'm all right. I'm down in Costa Rica. I'm getting kind of bored, actually. So I'm going to take on anything I can in order to just keep myself busy and out of trouble. So I said, yeah, and I did all this. And I told her, I said, I'm not a newborn photographer anymore. I'm kind of old school in the way I used to shoot newborns. I hardly do them at all. I do them, but hardly at all. Mm-hmm. By the way, this does not invalidate any of the belief I have in the fact that the baby's first year is one of the best marketing strategies that you should and could still do if you're into newborns. But where we've gone with the newborn photography it's been amazing. I don't have the patience for it nor the desire. I much prefer shooting fairies, families, and pop-up weddings. I don't even like doing full-scale weddings anymore. I'll do them, I'll book them, but I like the pop-up weddings. Yeah. Boom, boom, you're in, you're out. So apparently, she said, no, we want you because I'm a qualified judge and they want diversity, so we want to hear. And it was a real learning experience.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's just amazing to see how they developed. Did you know that they've outlawed 2 poses with this association? One pose they call the frog pose. You know this pose?
Yeah.
If you enter a print or an image for accreditation or otherwise, instantly it's rejected, no matter how good it is.
Really? This
is too dangerous.
For babies, you mean?
Yeah. I didn't know that. That's interesting. And the other one was, they call it the potato sack pose. So the baby's all wrapped up and the head's just poking out.
Yeah.
Although I thought I had seen some, so I needed a little more clarification on that. So, but anyways, it was interesting.
That's a popular thing because that Anna Brandt, I think her name is famous for baby photography, and that's one of her main things is wrapping them right up like that. And then same with that pose like this, because there was a safe way to do it. I know when I stopped doing it, stopped doing babies, and that the way you used to do it as 2 pictures and composite them together.
They still do that.
Top of the head, and then one was
holding the wrist. Yeah, but it's not allowed.
Yeah.
You hear Stephanie Robin talking about it. She's a physiotherapist, a child physiotherapist, or whatever you call. That's what she does for a living. She's almost like a doctor in this realm. She gets very technical in her explanation. It's dangerous. Uh-huh. Apparently, there have been other articles and other studies done from other scientific communities where they're sort of critical of this. So, and it just reminds me of another reason why I don't want to get into doing newborns or babies anymore. Even though I've done so many in my day. I've done so many. Do you remember back in the 90s, she used to do nice, beautiful books on baby and newborn photography? It was all film-based.
I wasn't. I was more back then. I was doing the bodybuilding fitness stuff back then.
She was putting babies in like flower pots, and she'd have
Ann Geddes?
Yes.
Yes. I do remember who you're talking about then, yes.
Ann Geddes.
Yes.
They used to do a lot of stuff inspired from that.
Usually found those then everywhere you went, like mostly hospitals and doctors' rooms. You go in and there's big, huge posters of Ann Geddes stuff on there, and she used to do the books and everything, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember back in the day doing...
she was the baby version of Annie Leibovitz.
Yeah. So, just let me show you something here, okay? I just want to take a second to show you something based on that. I just got to find it. All right. Let me show this screen. Then I'm going to show you some stuff I've been doing down here.
Yeah, we've been crazy. We did 2 hockey associations here, Petawawa and Deep River, and then we just finished doing our fundraiser on the weekend, so it's been busy here too.
You see that?
I do.
See that one there?
Yeah. That's a small baby.
That's Ann Geddes.
I could see it on the left-hand side too, like in the flower pots and things like that.
I think that's an Ann Geddes. It says Ann Geddes. you know, and this is the kind of stuff I was doing. I was
Yep.
photographing so many of them, and you know, this kind of stuff.
Love it.
I love this stuff. So whenever I get a call for newborn, I say, well, I don't shoot the way they shoot with all these props and poses. I don't do that. I want my poses to be natural.
Yep.
And that's my excuse for saying, you know, I want hands in the picture.
Yep.
I remember this pose from way back when, and I actually duplicated it once I had a husband and wife come in. It was their fourth child. This is in 2000. This is the first year. I was only 4 or 5 months digital, and I had a Canon D30 3.2 megapixel, and I shot this.
Yeah.
I showed him the picture, and he's like, no problem. Boom, boom, boom. He has the baby like this. And the guy's a surgeon, right? And she's a surgeon. And I'm like, okay, this guy's freaking me out the way he's handling this baby. So this is totally inspired by Ann Geddes. Totally.
Definitely.
I totally ripped off her pose. And
I'm a big fanatic for black and white, too. I love black and white.
Yeah, that was originally in color, and that was my Canon camera with a 50 mil lens, Canon lens, and it was so sharp. I made a 30-inch out of it, and I'd show people, and they're like, "That was digital." And back then, everybody was filming. Don't remember 2000. This is the year 2000. Yep. And I made a 30-inch print of this, and photographers would say, "They're looking close, and you could see the veins in the baby, the detail."
Yeah.
I said, well, there you go. Digital works. And that was a thing back then. And now it's not because we all know it works. So,
well, I was still film at that time. And I remember one of the bodybuilding photographers out of BC was Vancouver area. He was coming to some of the shows here in Toronto, and he had digital, and he was plugged in. And he's like, oh, yeah. And this was probably like 6 megapixels at that time. And he's like, yeah, I would never go back to film. I'm digital from now on. You watch, digital will be the next thing to take off. And I didn't believe it. So I'm like, yeah, sure it will.
Remember those flashcards? Not flashcards, but they were whatever the cards, memory cards, and they were
compact flash? No.
Compact flash. And they had 8 megabytes, 16 megabytes, 32 megabytes. 32 megabytes was $280.
Exactly. They were expensive.
At the time.
Yeah.
And crazy, eh? Technology.
Now you get like 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes for the same price of maybe a 4 megabyte card was back then.
So what I want to do is I'm using Dropbox. You know, I was talking about this the other day with somebody, and what do you do for storage? Well, back in the day, we were using CD-ROMs, so we had boxes and boxes of files with CD-ROMs. Then we went to DVD. Then we went to external drives to back up, and I got 2 boxes of external drives. And since 2016, I've gone 100% Dropbox. I got terabytes of stuff, and I pay $100 a month for that. And I'm like, I could just take all that, put it on a very there's probably some external hard drives at about maybe 5 or 6 terabytes, and I can just back everything up on there and kill my Dropbox account or bring it down to the cheaper account. Because I'm paying for data that I've had since 2006, and I've got to find a more efficient way to save money.
Crash Plan Pro for a while, which was one that I got at one of the Infernos. The last one I think it was.
I remember them.
What's that one? He's in Timmins also with Brian there. The other photographer.
Mark. Yeah, he was talking about that. Mark DeRoche.
Yeah, DeRoche, yeah. And he had recommended Crash Plan Pro. So I had gotten the account. It was like $20 a month or whatever. And at that time, they had it where if for some reason all your storage at your studio had crashed and you lost everything, you could actually send them a message saying, listen, my stuff crashed. I need my stuff. And you could pay them an extra, I think it was like $100 instead of having to go online and download it from their servers, which could take forever because you had lots of files. They would actually put the stuff on a hard drive for you, mail it to you. You can update your stuff again, and then just mail them the hard drive back. It was a couple $100. Then they stopped doing that, and then I got rid of it because it just ended up slowing my computer down because you had it running at certain times throughout the day to make sure it's backing your stuff up, and it just slowed my computer down. So,
well, I like Dropbox. Dropbox is very, very efficient. Never had a problem, and everything's backed up automatically. So.
A new one I've just started using, and I'm still in the process of getting to know how to do it because I did it once, and I don't know how to get it to update maybe when I'm at home, is if you have an Amazon Prime account, because
Mhm.
Amazon Prime has photo storage on there. And if you're paying for Amazon Prime, it's unlimited storage. And it also will store your RAW files, not just JPEGs.
Yeah. Well, I
So
don't
if you
think it
already have an
matters.
Amazon Prime account, you're already paying for it.
Yeah, I have a Prime account.
Yeah, you should check into that, because I uploaded some of my stuff, but I'm trying to figure out how to categorize it properly and how to get it so that maybe every
I
night at 3 a.m. it'll automatically do it for me. So when I get back to the studio, everything's all backed up.
see. I suspect they're going to have limits on that if you're a professional. They're probably talking the average consumer who has X amount of photography shot.
Yeah. So far, they haven't said anything, so it just
Yeah.
says unlimited.
Oh, by the way, you mentioned it backs up at 3 a.m. Dropbox is instant. As soon as I download a file, it's within minutes. It's backed up on their server and wherever else.
You had me put it on my computer, my laptop, when you were here last
Oh,
July.
yeah.
And for about a month, my computer was all screwed up. It was doing funny things in that. I actually had to get rid of Dropbox.
Yeah. Well, something's going on there. So Brian Coleman says large format enlargers were made by Hasselblad. When you say large format, I had two enlargers way back when I was 21 years old working for Dion Photography, the mining photographer. One was a medium format, and the other one was a 35 mil. The 35 mil was autofocus. I always remember that for whatever reason. And the images were so sharp that if we had a portrait session, we had to go back to they used to have a color darkroom, and it was like sort of put to sleep. They stopped doing that, but they had the enlarger still. It was an old Chromega, I believe. And whenever we had a portrait, we had to use that enlarger, which was a 4x5 and medium format enlarger, because the Hasselblad enlarger was too sharp. Just too much detail. It's crazy.
No, exactly. And I've never had I did darkroom, but not very much. When I was in college for about a year for audiovisual communications, we did do photography 101, and we did have to do darkroom black and white. But all we had to do was, like you said, the enlarger. You put the paper under, you do your test things or whatever. But we never had to do the trays where you put the paper in the different trays. They actually had a machine there that once you enlarge your print, you would take the paper, feed it one side of the machine. It would come out already. The fixer bath, the developer, it was all in this machine. It did it all for you.
I spent decades dipping my fingers in D76 or Dectol. I can't remember which one. One was for film, one was for paper, and then stop bath and fixer. Yeah. Or we used tongs with rubber, bamboo tongs with rubber tips on them. And
I never had to do that. I did use the enlargers, but I never looked at what brands they were in that. It was just whatever Humber College had at the time.
When I was 19, I went to college for one semester. 2 times. I dropped out both times. That's where I discovered photography, and it was the dark room and then the enlarger that hooked me. And getting that job, best job I ever had, by the way, the one I was just describing. But it saved my life because I was potentially going down a very dark road in my life, but it gave me a purpose and it gave me something I really sort of felt connected with.
Well, we're sort of similar that way, I guess, because I went to college after high school to be a rock and roll drummer, and I went actually to college for their music program. But I never entered their actual music program. I was in what's called a prep program. It was a 1-year course that you go and they teach you the basics of what they're going to kind of give you an idea of what the 2-year course is like. Yeah. And then you can decide if you want to apply for it or not, because you had to do audition and all that. And after that, I said, I don't want somebody telling me how to play the drums. So I actually changed majors into audiovisual communications. And
there you go.
Video photography 101, everything. Had to buy a camera. I bought my little Minolta X370N all manual camera from Black's, I think it was, with 2 lenses. And we did the photography 101 part. And then after one semester, like you, I'm like, school's not for me. And I dropped out after one semester and went to Muscle Mag. So
that's amazing. What happened to your rock and roll dreams?
I ended up later on selling my drums because they just sat in my friend's basement for a while because I was just too busy doing it. I was working and doing the photography, and I never got around to it. I do want to buy another kit again, and maybe I'll start doing it again. And
we got a jam, man. We got a jam. You like the blues?
Yeah, I can play some blues. Like the one thing about Humber was it was a music program that was more jazz oriented. So
Neil says D76 was film, Dectol was paper. Neil's got a memory like a trap. He's like a bear trap. Thanks, Neil. That was a long time ago for me. Okay, what movie, trivia question of the hour. What movie is this from?
I have no clue.
That was a line, but it was
it was a line.
It's an orange.
I
I'll
don't know.
bet you Neil knows.
A Jim Carrey movie?
No,
King Kong?
no, more classic. Somebody knows. All right. I'll get back to that in a minute. I want to talk about.
I don't know.
I'll show my screen. I'm going to talk about a couple shoots I did recently. Okay. Can you hear me chewing?
Nope. Can you hear me breathing?
Yeah. Brian says microdol was fun to use too. We used to use microdol, but it was a special application that was used for. By the way, we used Kodak Developer T76. No, HC110 and Ilford film. And the two, if you researched it, they said not compatible.
Oh, okay.
Which is bullshit, because we did tests and the best results were Kodak and Ilford, which obviously they probably didn't want you to use the competitors.
No.
John took the same course as you, but at Cambridge. Was that audiovisual technician, Brian?
So they used to call it audiovisual technician until I joined. Then they changed it to audiovisual communications, and they did like TV Studio 101, and they had the old Rogers cable cameras in there. And it was actually a real television studio, and you had to take turns being either a director or a cameraman or telecine guy and that. And then they taught you how to do slide presentations because there was no computers back then. It wasn't like this. This is back in the early 90s. So they had where you do multiple slide carousel type machines and you're doing slide presentations and that. And then they taught you photography 101 and anything to do with audio visual. So
can you see my screen?
I can now. Yeah, I took it off earlier because it was doing that psychedelic thing where you
I just had to switch it over.
Yeah. So once you switch it over, I put it back on.
I think I showed this image before. I'm pretty sure because this was my first fairy shoot I did as a portfolio building strategy. So I'll skip through these really quick. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to create a portfolio of images that I'm shooting literally in front of my condo. And I'm using a AD200. There's my wife's arm. And I don't know. There must be a kicker light here. I got an AD200 with a 4-inch, 3-inch reflector. And doing lots of Photoshop, as you can see.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm experimenting. Lots of photo. You can see the AD200 right there. So I'm trying to get some samples going, and if we haven't got one yet, but if I do any fairy sessions, I can do them right in front of my studio.
And that's just like a local neighbor there that you're using?
She's our property manager's 10-year-old daughter.
Awesome.
I remember when she was born, I did pictures of Rose.
The way to getting good with your property manager.
Yeah, well, we know her very well. She does a lot of work for us. She's a key player in our lives as far as like
but when we have issues. You make it look like your normal backdrops that you use, just a different version of it. It looks really nice.
Yeah, well, I'm experimenting, and I'm using that flood. You know that flood pear, flaming pear.
Okay.
It's it's a free trial. They haven't charged me for it yet, and I'll buy it if I have to. It's no big deal. But it's a plugin, Photoshop plugin. Creates water effects. Very, very, very cool plugin. So you can see the water effect, and it creates the reflection automatically.
And I love that because you're just on a pathway there with no water, no mirror, no nothing, and you can make it work.
So I'm thinking when I'm shooting these, I'm like, okay, I'm going to add water here, make sure you create enough space, compose it properly, yada, yada, yada. And her little sister was in it. It was very hard to manage. Very hard to do this shoot because they only speak Spanish. Okay. So, but, I got to learn the language. So now here's this little girl. Her mom and dad moved here a year ago they're from the UK. Her name is Gaia. And I met them last year. And when we came back this year, I hit them up. I said, you want to bring Gaia over for some pictures? And so that's what we're creating.
I wonder if that plugin would work for you in the studio when you get somewhere they don't have that 4x4 mirror like I have. Instead of
probably
that other stuff, Mylar or whatever it is you put down, just use that.
Probably. I could use anything.
But if you put the rocks around in a circle, is it going to go over top of the rocks, I guess?
We'd have to erase it out, but I like back home having the 4x4 because it's part of their experience.
Sure, sure.
They're fascinated by it, oddly enough. So same lighting, shooting, f4 1/125th of a second, ISO 100, handheld. And this is, I believe, an 85 mil lens. Let me verify that. No, I'm using the 135. I have both lenses here. They're both primes. And, with that 135, by the way, I'm going to sell the 85 and the 135. They're Batis lenses. They're extremely sharp. They're really nice. I want to get the 70-200 G Master.
Yeah.
I found 3 used ones in Ontario. Oddly enough, I don't know why people are selling them. So it's going to be my first query. Why are you selling it? Is it a crap lens?
I love my 70-200.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, John, and this came up in my mind last week or 2 weeks ago, and we had Vanessa Joy on. I was thinking about what she said about the Canon mirrorless system, and what she loves the most is how amazing it is for focusing, which is exactly what I experience with my system.
Yeah. Sony and Canon have the best when it comes with the mirrorless, with the eye focus, and that Nikon still
I didn't know Canon had that.
They didn't. They had it on the last few, like the R and the RP when it first came out in their mirrorless, but they weren't nearly as good as Sony at all. Sony still had the market, but now that they've come out, that R6 and R5, and now the new R3 Pro camera.
So I should switch to Canon.
They just knock it out of the park now, apparently. I had one guy, he was sitting there going like this. You ever see that guy Frono's Photo on YouTube?
Afro dude.
And he was like this, and he would turn his head and turn it right back, and it would catch his eye right away.
It's cool.
So,
but here's where I'm getting at with that. So she was talking about that, and I concur that I had the exact same experience with my Sony. But I didn't ask her this. I should have asked her, and I probably should hit her up and ask her. One thing that really drives me nuts about the Sony mirrorless, and one of the reasons I want to go to a 70-200, besides the fact that it's so convenient, plus I'd like to have that extended up to 200. I'm only go up to 135 right now. It's probably all I ever need, but it'd be nice to have 200, especially for doing headshots on location with that nice blurred background. And but one thing that almost was a deal killer for me when I first got the Sony system, and I thought to myself back then, I said, shit, if I'd have known this, I probably wouldn't have switched. Maybe. And that is that the sensors are really dirty. They get dirty really fast, and it's a pain in the ass.
Might be like that with all the mirrorless. Who knows?
That's what I want to know. Is the Canon, what do you call it, the R3?
The R3 is their new Pro flagship, which is probably going to be about 8,500 to $9,000 Canadian. But you got their R5, which is about 7 something, and it's like 45 megapixels, way more than you need. And then the R6 is like the 21 megapixel version of the R5.
Okay, so it's R3,
the R5, and the R6. The R5 came out first, and the R6 followed, and then they just came out with the R3.
So they're going back in numbers.
I guess so, because, well, back in the day when digital was for sale, like you had the D series, like the 20D, the 10Ds, those were the consumer pro, amateur pro. Then you had the D series, like the 5Ds, which were the newer pro models. And then you had the 1D, which was their flagship.
Weird, eh? So which one came out first, 3, 5, or 6?
The R5. The R6 was like a stripped down version of the R5.
It's probably just as good and cheaper. The R3,
and then you had the R3 just came out, and that's like their flagship camera now.
Canon models have always confused me with all their numbers.
It's like it's like Nikon. You had your 1DX, which was like the flagship version. Then you had your 100, D100, D200s, things like that, and then you had your D70s. So it goes the same way. That's just Canon.
So I got a whole bunch of series of images here, and this is a video. Oh yeah, I remember now why I wanted to show this. I was asked by our library 2 months ago if I would do an armchair traveler presentation. It's a series they do. They're online, and they wanted me to do one on Costa Rica. It's library. Same lady that I do the photography 101 courses with in our city.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah,
What's with your
absolutely.
window and door in that picture where you're holding the mug? They look all warpy and stuff.
Oh, that's you. You know what it is? That is a screenshot from the effect that I added when I have a title, and then I got the actual video, and there's a transition, which is ripples to mimic water. So that's why.
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, I've watched your video. It's just kind of weird. It looks all wavy like your window. The guy was drunk when he put it in.
And so this is the parents of that little girl.
Okay.
He's a professional drummer. That's what he does. He's from France and she's from the UK. They lived in the UK and they moved here a year and a half ago. They just uprooted and they're selling their apartment in the UK. They can't stand it there anymore with all the restrictions and all. So they wanted to get away. And a lot of people are doing that down here. I notice it's booming because a lot of people are just trying to get away. So these are just proofs. 100%. I haven't worked on any of these yet. But I wanted
I like his haircut.
Yeah. And we're doing, okay, I'm not charging them. We're doing a trade.
Yep.
He's a professional drummer. He has this thing called a drum circle every Monday, and he's going to give me some private lessons on the cajon. Because I do open mic night. I play guitar, sing, and play the harmonica. And I'm like, I always wanted to learn to do more percussion. And man, I don't know if I can get a better guy than this. I mean, he was telling me in the UK, him and his wife had a company they started. It was based on doing these, they had 15 like different stage outfits, and these were black lights, and they had percussions and music, and it was a show. And they built it up, and they were up till they had a biggest audience they had was like 12,000 people. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Blue Man Group or something similar to that, or a little bit of Cirque du Soleil. And boom, COVID shut her all down.
Jeez.
So I felt bad for them. So anyways, keep in mind that we wanted to go with nice studio type lighting, which I got going on here. And this is not the same lighting I had for the ferry. This is, I can't even show it to you. You know the big reflectors?
Yeah.
Like they're 6 feet tall?
Yeah.
Well, I have one here, and it's, you can peel it off. You can take it. One side's black,
5-in-1 type of thing.
Yeah, I got one side's white, one side's silver, one side's gold. And then if you take the cover out, it's just like translucent material. Yeah. That's what this is. So it's the AD200 shooting through that material.
Make it like a softbox.
Yeah, that's what I want. And it's really hard for me to get my wife to kind of do what I tell her to do when it comes to these kinds of shoots. So I have to tell her beforehand. I'm like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish here. I'm trying to get a good sort of scenario going on. So again, remind you that I'd have to run these through Raw Editor and do some retouching and that. None of that's been done. So we're going with the tropical look. This is late in the day sunset. And, you could see lines under her eyes and shine. And I'm going to take all that out and do some nice glamour retouching. Yep. She's a professional dancer. This is going to come up in a minute. So we did a series there, headshots. And by the way, it reminded me that when I'm doing the shoot, if I'm trying to do too much in one shoot, it's not a good idea. And I was going to tell them that because it waters down my time and my brain. So I'm thinking I got to do headshots. And our primary purpose was to go there and do family. But I was like, let's do some headshots while we're here. I'm like, to me, it waters it down because this is really what we were there for, was the family. So anyways, we went around the corner. There's an area called Langosta Beach, and the sun was setting. Right now? I don't know. Whatever. Hold on. I got to let Andy in. Hold on.
That's what you get when you have live television, is you never know what's going to happen.
Come say hello. Come say hello. Hola. Hola. That's Andy. That's the dad of the first fairy I showed you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, her name is Abigail. Okay, so we're around the corner, and I like to be early and on time, and I like to have a buffer zone, and so that's what happened here. We're too early because in this area there's no air, open shade. It's just raw beach low tide-ish. You see lots of rocks there. So I started shooting regardless. Normally, I wouldn't shoot with the sun this high.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's actually not bad.
No.
It's not bad. You can hear Andy sanding. So I did a series. I thought, I'm just going to work it. I'm not going to worry about adding additional lights. I'm just going to shoot. And then we shooting at 2.8, 1,250th of a second. So I'm auto ISO. And I set the shutter speed really fast. And I'm shooting wide open with the 135 lens on servo. So the previous shot where they're not moving is not servo, but these are, they're moving. So I did a series of them standing still, and then I did these. And then it's again, we talked about this. The Sony focus is amazingly accurate. So you can see ISO 100 still. So I did a series of pictures. You know, and there's a dog in the background. I'm going to take that out later. The horizon might be a little bit crooked, which is okay. I'm going to fix that later. So I got a whole series of pictures. Then I got them. The waves are coming in. I'm like, good. I love this. I love this stuff where the kids kind of like, get away from the water. And a whole series of pictures. Okay. So I'm shooting on high speed. It's fast, man. This camera, like, it's like a machine gun. So I got to be really careful. And here's a picture. I asked them to swing the kid up in the air. Okay.
That's fun.
The next picture after this one was when we found out she had no underwear on. She's covered here.
Yeah. Okay.
But the next picture, full blown, all exposed. I deleted that one and reformatted the card. Could you imagine?
No, exactly.
I'm not even going to tell them. I'm just like, no way. And, you know, it was like the topic came up and the mom was joking about it. And I said, yeah, but still, you know, I'm like,
no.
If somebody took that the wrong way.
I don't think so. I think they understood you're just looking out for them.
Well, what if somebody said, yeah, Rob shoots pictures of naked girls?
Yeah, exactly.
Technically, it's true. I'm like a pedophile and my career is over.
Exactly.
You know Michael Lynn?
Michael Lynn. The name does sound familiar.
He's a local photographer in Sudbury. He was doing bunnies at Easter time every year. Very successful. Somebody got it in their head that the bunnies were being abused. Reported to the press. It was the furthest thing from the truth. The bunnies were fine. They were from PETA. They were like activists. Anyways, I got the nice long lens here at 135, and you could see these fun shots. I love the energy. You know, they're going to use these for their website, so this is pretty much what I want. You know, lots of smiles.
Just love the scenery behind it too. It's awesome.
Yeah. And the little girl jumped. See, there's the rock back here. The little girl jumped on that rock for a second. I'm like, oh, let's just do a few there. Now, come on, Rob. What's working here? I'm trying to get the picture to center here, and it won't. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Okay, well, let's go with that. So I said, let's do a series here. And you see how nicely it's filled in?
Yeah, very much.
It's got to be from the sand. It's booting up that light back into the shadows.
It does act like a natural reflector when you're on the beach.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to shoot this way from now on. I normally I wait till the sun drops very, very low before I do these shots. Or I bring in the light.
The little girl, she's got a fill coming in the one side just from the dad's shirt too.
Never thought of that. All right, there you go. So white works. So I got a whole series of pictures of them. Then I had them running shots. I love this. I just love these. This to me is what it's all about. I would blow these up. Until they don't
stop and they run you over.
Well, they were getting there. Look at the smiles on the little kid, eh?
I know.
So I had them do it. I had them do it over and over again. And then I said to them, let the kid go ahead of you, which we did. We did a whole series. She's like right into it. And then we did some jumping shots. The little girl jumped. I said, well, let's do some jumping. Look at the mom. You can tell she's a dancer. By the way, I got to point something out. So we got dad lower mom higher, and the girl in the middle, obviously. If dad were over here, he's taller by nature, then he would be extra, extra tall because of the slope in the beach. So this is important to note. But not only that, she's getting the best light. He's getting like split lighting here. So this is all done strategically and on purpose, although, you know, you can't really control the way the light's falling on her. However, I want it balanced out, and I want him a little bit taller. So these are just things. These are things. Yeah, look at mom's flying in the air, and then dad jumps.
That's classic.
Yeah, I love this.
I do too.
And then they wanted a couple shots, so I did this. I'm not crazy about the way the light's falling, so I had them turn their head into the light. So we kind of got this. Sun is still raw in the sky. Works. I did a whole series. And then I said, oh, let's throw the kid in there for a few. The waves are coming in. Waves are coming in. So then the sun's dropping now. So I'm like, okay, let's get him by this. This is what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for that low, sweet hour. So I did a couple like this, like this, like this. A couple silhouettes. These are supposed to be silhouettes. Now this is with the 8200 on a reflector. Nothing else. I can't stand having a raw reflector, but I had no choice. I was telling my wife last week, as a matter of fact, I said, next time we do a shoot like this, I want to bring the two 8200s for what's called idiot lighting. One on each side. Yep. Like headlights. You know what I mean, John?
Yep.
Okay. It's going to double our complexity because now we got to handle two lights.
Yeah.
And I preemptively talked to Tina and I said, this is what I want to achieve. Because I've done this before. They call it idiot lighting, but it's actually very, 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 very nice because it just envelops the whole scene in a nice soft.
Are you talking about from the sides like you and James used to do in your weddings with the guys sometimes?
I don't know if we use two lights. No, if you can imagine one light to my right, one light to my left, and they're identical.
Okay.
So we use the two reflectors, which is the 8200 with the 3 or 4 inch reflector on it.
Oh, okay.
With the diffusion panel on the front. I bought from Amazon. I bought the diffusion.
That's not what I was thinking of. You remember that picture you had once on the beach where you're holding two speed lights at you like this?
Yeah, that's for very edgy lighting.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about.
No.
Okay.
No, I know what you're talking about. That's when you have like that's real edgy look. Very popular in senior photography. And
you're thinking more now like a softer flat light like I do with my pinups, like Mike Long.
Very flat. One to the right, one to the left, equal power, equal source.
Yep.
And maybe they're like 10 feet away on either side, and it just floods the scene evenly. Definitely. And that'll just create a softer look, less hard shadows. And that's where I'm going when the next time I do a beach shoot. So here's the sun. The sun's in the picture. You got a very limited time when we have these. I've got more. I just wanted to show you guys a few. And then we went off to the beach. This was, same area. I switched lenses. This is with the 16 to 35. And now I went back to the 135. And they were doing this. So I just started shooting. Now, so I'm auto ISO, remember? Here I'm not. I'm 100% manual. I'm shooting at 5S5 160 640 at high speed sync. So everything's 100% manual on me. And then here I switch back to auto ISO, preferring to set the aperture, and I cranked up the shutter speed because I'm handheld. I just started doing a whole series like this, and then they did this. And the ISO's see the ISO right here, it's at 1,000. So the sun's dropping, the ISO is going up. There's 1,200, 1,600. The sun's dropping really fast. 1,600, 1,200.
How does Sony handle at those high ISOs?
We're about to find out. This is kind of out of sync. We had done these as well. And I wanted to show you guys. So this was out in the rocks. This was actually shot just before this series. Okay. See, this is the beach.
Yep.
This is the rocks. And I didn't like it here. It was very hard to walk out to. So when we went back, they were bare feet. I actually just picked up the little girl and I literally ran back to the beach because I knew we were losing daylight. And so these were shot after these. I did a couple silhouettes. A lot of wind. So, okay, we're back on the beach. Okay, look at it. ISO is now up to 3200. I dropped the shutter speed. No, it's still at 1250.
Can you zoom in on it so we can see how it handles noise-wise? And
let me do that in a minute.
Okay.
I'll finish these.
Yeah,
and,
go for it. Such a cute.
So there's 3200. So we're really this beautiful light, but we're losing the intensity of the light.
Yeah.
And he brought one of his drums, and they wanted pictures. So look, we're at 12,800 ISO. And I'm thinking to myself,
waking up too much.
No, it's not. It's grainy, but it's not bad. I mean, they would easily use this.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, I could probably bring that shutter speed down. So I did eventually. We're at 12,800. So I brought the shutter speed down to 640, and they wanted this. They're just farting around on the beach.
Yeah.
The girls are dancing. And I did some of Mom. Look at 12,800. So these are with the long lens. Then I switched lenses. I went to 200 ISO, 5,000. The ISO dropped down because I decreased the shutter speed. If you were here, it looked much darker in person.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
But the light was very, very soft.
But at least you got a good exposure, because I always find when it comes to digital, you have to err on the overexposure as opposed to under. Because if you go under, then you try to bring that exposure back up later in Photoshop, you're going to add so much more noise up.
Yeah. So it's a bit grainy. So what is this?
Usable.
This is 10,000 ISO with the A7R2. Yeah, and I've done nothing to it. I could denoise it a little bit. And
I try not to use noiseware if I don't have to, like in Lightroom, that only because if you go too far, they look plastic. So you got to just be careful with it and be very subtle. I don't think you would even have to. I mean, I'm looking at these images right now on my screen.
I think it'd be fine
there, but it looks usable to me.
We're going to call it art. So there's 8,000 ISO. I like the lighting on. I like the lighting on him. The split masculine lighting. It's the same lighting he's drumming there. And then so I went the opposite, and I put the sunset behind me to get some shots of the girls. The freaking white balance. I'm just farting around.
Yeah, but you can fix that.
Yeah. So this is 8,000 ISO, 400 of a second, with the 135 at 2.8. I freaking love that lens. I just don't like.
By accident before the bodybuilding shoot back in the 90s. I had 400 speed film in black and white, and then I changed to color slide film, but I forgot to change the ISO on my camera, and it was 100 slide film, and I still had my camera set to 400. Or it was the other way around. I think it was I had 100 speed film in, and I forgot to set it to 400. And so it was very underexposed by like 2 stops. And the guy doing my slides, he did what, I don't know if you remember, they used to do a thing called clip testing, where they would actually pull out maybe the first 2 or 3 images from your film, cut it, and just develop that. And then they can look at it, see if it's too dark, too light, and compensate on the developing time for the rest of the roll. And he called me up. He's like, these are like really underexposed by like 2 stops. And with slides, that's very unforgiving. I said, I'll just try them anyways. There was only like 1 or 2 rolls I did that on out of all the ones we shot. And let me see what it looks like. He goes, okay. So he compensated for it. And when I got them, they were so grainy and noisy. And in film days, it was grain. It wasn't noise. It was grain. But I actually told the client, I said, I wanted to try something different this time. I wanted to go a little artsy. So I thought I'd try something different. And
fine art of bullshitting.
After they looked at all the pictures, that one of those ones they loved the best, that they used it in a full-page ad in the magazine for the supplement company. Nice. And here it was a mistake, but they liked it. They thought I did.
Don't tell them. They might ask for their money back. Don't tell them. Your secret is safe with us.
Yeah, it was a good mistake. Put it that way.
All right. Well, we're done. Yes. We went over a bit, but that's okay. I hope I thought we had some interesting conversations there, Johnny, and just let's close off with, tell us quickly, and we'll get into it down the road because we talked about this off camera. You had a really successful Women's Day thing.
Yes, I did actually.
Fundraiser.
Actually, I can do a quick little. We're not going to talk about it now, but
no,
just give an idea for what they can look for. This was the event here. Somebody was actually one of the people that were at it were taking little pictures with their cell phone of me shooting. So you can actually see, like on this here, like you can see right here, these are all
Nice.
gift baskets that we had there, and there's me shooting. And
I recognize that studio.
What's that?
That's your studio.
That's my studio, yeah. And then don't worry, this is just my desk with my laptop and my video light here. But you could see that
bottle of whiskey and a bag of weed, a big bong,
the big 7-foot umbrella here.
So,
but yeah, we'll go more into detail on this at another in another one. We'll talk maybe.
We're going to dedicate a series on fundraising, and we're going to focus in on that. But
so
tell us the big news before we close off here. What happened? And you had a successful event, and you are now.
We are now what?
You are now. You're now one of the partners.
The co-organizers of it now.
You weren't, now you are.
Yeah. So what it was is she's 22 years old now, but when she started this 6 years ago, she was 16 years old, and she used to apparently. The women's shelter was a big influence in her life because she went through some downs while she was a teenager, and she basically lived out of this women's shelter for a lot of it. So she wanted to give back when she became, when she had the chance. So she actually started this thing 6 years ago, the International Women's Day photo shoot fundraiser. And she started it with another photographer for about the first 2 years. And then she brought it to me when he couldn't do it anymore. And she knew I had the studio. And she's like, would you help me? I'm like, definitely, let's do it. So we started, and I think the first year we did it, we raised what, maybe $1,000, $1,200. By last year, we raised $2,200, and then this year's we raised about $5,000. So it keeps going up.
Cool.
And she added me on as one of the event coordinators now. We're partners now. It's not just
awesome. I love it. I love it. So you're going to be raising easy 25 grand.
That's our goal. We're going to bring it up every time. We got plans. We might have to actually, after either this year or even after next year, the way it's getting bigger, we might have to just not do it out of my studio anymore. We might have to get a bigger space to do it out of.
Deal with that when you get there. But what a problem to have.
Definitely.
So next week we have Paul Maynard, who I've known for I don't know how many years, but he was one of the original members in NoBS Photo Success Forum. And he was a ferry photographer full-time at one time. I remember I did a webinar with him around 12 years ago. So I contacted him last week and just to see what he's been up to. And he's not doing ferries anymore. He's doing real estate. Plus he's got a sort of a real estate photography. It looks almost like a coaching program or something.
Cool.
To help teach others how to, he's got some sort of a niche. Anyways, he's in the West Coast. He can only go first thing in the morning, so we're going to be going earlier than normal.
Yeah.
What time?
Eastern, I think you said 10 Eastern.
Yes, 10 Eastern. I'll be going 9 o'clock Costa Rica. It'll be 8 o'clock Mountain Time where Paul is, and I'm gonna send out an email. I'll send more info on that. But it looks exciting. It's like it's so cool to hear from guys like that. Well, I reached out to him. 7
a.m. BC time. West Coast.
And if you can't make it, well, get up, man.
Exactly. We're worth it.
We are. And if you can't make it because you're busy, well, that's good. Just watch the replay. So
we get to see Rob very early in the morning.
Yeah, I'm up at 5, 6 anyways. So I'm up with the birds.
I was up early today for my business meeting, my BNI meeting.
I enjoy it. I enjoy getting up early. Some people say it's what happens when you get older. I don't know. Maybe it is. Who cares? Feels good.
Yeah. Colleen was just whispering to me. He's like, John, what? Like, you got a passport to shoot in 10 minutes. I'm like, no, they canceled. She didn't know they canceled though.
Well, thanks to Brian and Neil for your commentary.
Definitely.
And
he's been going on like all the stuff about the thing, and he did take a course similar to mine at that other college he was talking about.
Yeah,
he's talking about your Sony glass, how good it is. But Canon, they're saying the new RF lenses from Canon, that new glass for the mirrorless it's apparently better than anything Sony's got. They say.
I'm gonna have to switch.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna have to tell my wife. Sorry, hun. I need a new camera.
Bring you to the dark side.
I said, John told me.
Yeah. Sony
and Brian.
Best.
Neil says, Olympus Digital's pioneered a lot of great dust control cameras. Loved mine, but like full frame better. So,
Yeah.
and Brian also said, well, money sign, money sign, money sign. Money sign, the Sony sensor does seem to collect a dust a lot. My big question of the hour is, do the Canon R series mirrorless have the same issue?
I don't know. I wonder if they have the same thing. Like I know on our DSLRs, yeah, it does collect dust still every now and then, but not as much as it used to when they first came out, because I don't know about the other ones, Sony and Nikon, if they ever do it, but when you turn the camera on, it automatically has a dust cleaning function that goes on. And what it does, it's like, apparently there's like a little invisible shield type of thing that's in front of the sensor that vibrates at a certain frequency to try and knock the dust off. I don't know how well it works, but.
Well, the Sony has little tiny miniature AI robot gremlins I go in and scrub. But they're always leaving trash.
Yeah, little squeegees.
All right, we're out of here. Thanks, guys.
Right,
thanks,
man.
Neil. Neil says he enjoyed it. Talk to you guys next week.
Where's my cursor here? There we go. Next week.